Hello, coaches. Welcome to the Coach C Basketball Analytics Podcast. In today's episode, I want to discuss the direction of college sports. I think we are reaching a point where we need to ask some honest questions about competition, coaching, and what college athletics is becoming. What is competition supposed to do? Competition is supposed to test programs. But how can programs still be evaluated the same way when the financial realities are completely different? Some schools are spending millions of dollars building rosters. Yes, millions. And listen, I understand it. The pressure to win is real. NIL is real. The transfer portal is real. The business side of college sports is real. But if the system has changed this much financially, then maybe the way we evaluate coaches and programs should change too. Because what exactly are we evaluating today? When a coach wins Coach of the Year with a multi-million-dollar roster, what exactly are we rewarding? Teaching, player development, leadership, basketball knowledge, or financial advantages too? And on the other side, how should we evaluate coaches at smaller schools trying to build competitive programs without the same money, visibility, recruiting advantages, or exposure? There are coaches doing unbelievable jobs with limited resources. Those coaches matter too. And honestly, I think coaching itself is changing. Years ago, coaching was closely tied to teaching and player development. Today, many coaches are becoming roster CEO type coaches. Again, I understand why, but are we still developing players the same way? Are coaches still teachers of the game? Or are we becoming more dependent on bringing in ready-made talent? That is not criticism. That is a real question. College sports are becoming more professional every year. We still talk about education, development, teamwork, and student athletes. But schools are spending millions building teams. So where is all this heading? Sometimes it feels like we are building a minor professional system under a college name while still trying to evaluate coaches and programs using old standards. And that is where I think the conversation becomes interesting. Maybe we are reaching a point where college coaches are no longer doing the same job. Think about it. One coach may be building through development, teaching, culture, and long-term growth. Another coach may be building through major financial backing, transfer portal movement, NIL opportunities, and roster acquisition. That is not the same reality. So should they still be evaluated the same way? I do not know, but I think college sports will eventually have to face that question honestly. And honestly, maybe this discussion goes beyond coaches too. How should teams and programs be evaluated now, especially during tournament selection time? If programs are operating under completely different financial realities, roster structures, and recruiting advantages, then how do we truly compare programs? How do we compare a smaller program built through development against programs built with major financial backing and roster acquisition? That is another real question. Competition is supposed to test programs, but the conditions surrounding programs are changing fast. And this affects everybody. It affects coaches, it affects players, it affects athletic directors, it affects smaller programs, and it affects young coaches trying to grow in the profession. How does a young coach grow today without major connections, money, visibility, or a strong coaching network behind them? How does a coach at a smaller school prove he or she can coach at a higher level if they never get access to the same opportunities and resources? Sometimes it feels like if you are not already inside certain coaching circles, it becomes very difficult to break through. And there are a lot of very good basketball minds out there that never get real opportunities, not because they cannot coach, but because the structure itself is changing. And athletic directors now face a different environment too. What are athletic directors really looking for today? Teachers of the game, developers of players, builders of culture, or roster CEO type coaches who can attract money, transfers, exposure, and attention to the program? The financial side of college athletics keeps growing, facilities keep growing, budgets keep growing, roster spending keeps growing, and honestly, another thing I think about is this. Years ago, people donated to college sports. Now it feels like people want to invest in college sports. And to me, that is different because investors usually expect returns. So if college athletics keeps moving in that direction, then eventually you have to ask where all this leads. What point do athletics start separating themselves from the academic side of universities? Once money starts changing the structure of competition, eventually it can start changing the structure of decision making too. I do not know where this ends, but I think these are questions worth thinking about. And another part of this discussion that nobody talks about enough is the player experience itself. We talk about teamwork, but many teams only go 7 players deep. Some athletes train 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours every day. and barely play. Yes, education matters. But those athletes are still sacrificing years of work, discipline, commitment, and belief in the program. That matters too. So maybe the biggest question is not whether college sports are changing. They already are. The real question is whether the values, evaluations, and expectations connected to college sports are changing honestly with it. You cannot completely change the financial structure of competition, and pretend coach and team evaluations remain the same. And maybe that is why I think about these things the way I do. Because before anything else, I see myself as a teacher first and a coach who happens to see the game analytically. Yes, winning matters, competition matters, but development matters too. Education matters too. And I think college sports has to be careful not to lose that part of its identity. Coaches, I'm not pretending to have all the answers, but I do believe these are conversations worth having. College sports are changing fast. And the challenge now is making sure we do not lose the educational and developmental side of sports while chasing the business side of winning. Well, coaches, that wraps up today's discussion. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to having you with us in our next episode.